Welcome, everybody. We'll get started in just a moment. If you're just joining us, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Let us know where you're calling in from today. All right, we'll give it just another moment for everyone to get in, and then we'll get started. All right, if you're just coming in, feel free to drop your name in the chat. Let us know where you're calling in from today. We'll also be utilizing the chat box for questions. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, don't hesitate to put them in the chat. We will likely have time at the end to answer questions. So if we don't get to it immediately, we will hopefully get to it at the end. And at the end, we'll also have an opportunity for you to raise your hand and ask questions in person. So don't hesitate to use that. Awesome. I see we've got some United States people in the audience today. And yes, don't hesitate to utilize that throughout the session. And it looks like we are ready to get started. So I am thrilled to welcome you all today to our One Race for Ocean student learning session. We have our amazing friends at Sustainable Ocean Alliance with us today. Sustainable Ocean Alliance is one of our education collaborators for One Race for Oceans. So super excited to be partnering with them. And today on the call, we have Emily Tews and Sophia Barboza, who will be presenting to us. And like I said, we are very excited to have them with us. So please give a warm welcome. And Sophia and Emily, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Emily, and thank you for having us, inviting us. Super excited to talk to you today. I think we'll start with just introducing ourselves a bit more. So Sophia, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Sure, thank you, Emily. Really excited to be here and to be sharing with you all and to get to know a little bit more about Enactus as well. So I'm Sophia Barboza. I'm the Ocean Leadership Program Associate at Sustainable Ocean Alliance. I work really closely with our microgrant program where we provide funding to youth-led ocean projects around the world. I also work closely with our Youth Policy Advisory Council, which we'll be sharing a bit more about later. And I also work closely with our Spanish and Portuguese speaking hubs around the world as well. So thank you. Yeah, over to you, Emily.
Thanks. So my name's Emily. And yeah, I work really closely with Sophia. I'm on SOA's Ocean Leadership team, and my main kind of functions are co-managing our microgrants program with Sophia and our colleague Taylor, as well as working with our regional representatives and our global community of hubs, which we'll talk more about later. I also work on our campaign against deep seabed mining, which I'll also share a bit more about later. So yeah, to get started today, today we'd like to basically share with you a bit more about Sustainable Ocean Alliance and how you can get involved with us. We know that most of you are working in your degrees and that many of you have an interest in kind of social innovation, entrepreneurship. So given that, I think, you know, most of you here would be kind of a great profile of like the people that we're trying to bring more into the SOA network. And we hope that this presentation can give you some ideas of what types of innovation in terms of like ocean projects are out there right now and where you can go to learn more, as well as how to join SOA and join us in our mission to protect the ocean. So SOA's founder is Daniela Fernandez, and she was actually a college student at Georgetown University when she founded SOA in 2014. Kind of from the beginning, the goal of the organization was bringing young people and college students into global conversations around ocean conservation and climate change, where they weren't kind of historically included. And our kind of from the beginning, we've tended to be a bit overly ambitious, and our vision as an organization is to regenerate ecosystems and restore the health of the ocean. And since 2014, we've grown into a global network of over 6,000 leaders around the world, all of whom are taking actions to improve ocean health in furtherance of the SDG 14. So next slide. Yeah, so SOA is made up of two main programs. So we've got the Ocean Leadership Program, which is the side of SOA that Sophia and I are working on primarily, as well as the Ocean Accelerator Program. So through these two programs, we advance the impact of ocean startups, social entrepreneurs, and young leaders that are developing solutions to the threats facing our oceans. And we can get more into kind of specifics, so we'll get more into specifics about the two programs later, but first we wanted to kind of share a broad overview of SOA by sharing with you a short kind of 3.5-minute video. So I'll ask Sophia to play that video.
The ocean represents 70% of the Earth's surface. It is the primary food source for 3.5 billion people. It maintains our seasons and regulates the temperature of the Earth. All of this is currently threatened by marine pollution, ocean acidification, unsustainable fishing, and habitat destruction. It will take heroic efforts to preserve our ocean and our way of life. In 2014, Daniela Fernandez, then an undergraduate student at Georgetown University, founded Sustainable Ocean Alliance.
The goal of SOA in bringing together amazing ocean technology entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, partners, and ocean experts is to help these entrepreneurs accelerate their ideas.
In 6 years, it has produced the world's largest network of young ocean leaders in over 165 countries and launched the world's first Ocean Solutions Accelerator to support developing technological solutions to address the greatest threats facing our planet. The Accelerator program supports the world's most brilliant solutionists focused on improving the health of the ocean. Each team that is accepted into one of our month-long programs receives expert mentorship and guidance as they work diligently to accomplish their project goals. With 20 startups to date and $20 million raised in follow-on funding.
Investors are very interested in the blue ocean space, in the blue economy, and startups like all of ours are highly investable.
What SOA is doing is incredibly necessary. The ocean is literally the biggest thing on the planet, and a lot of the companies who are going to make a difference are right here.
The Accelerator at Sea is the week-long kickoff to the program and a chance for entrepreneurs to become immersed in the natural world that they're working to preserve. It offers a unique experience and a powerful environment in which to expand their solutions.
I had my pitch completely reworked by the director of Chasing Ice. That was amazing. I consider myself kind of an amateur storyteller, but this is an expert. And he's like, you can tell your story better. We had our hiring process completely revamped by Tom Chi. Everything that we do in our hiring now is completely different from what we did prior to Accelerator at Sea. That's super important for us right now.
Success for our entrepreneurs more specifically would be leaving with a community, which I think has already happened. So a community of entrepreneurs, a community of mentors to support them.
In addition to the Accelerator, the Ocean Leadership Program was created to give young people a voice in the future of the planet and a seat at the table of ocean policymaking.
When I walked into the room, I could feel the energy already. It's inspiring to be together with young people that really see that there are changes that need to be made, but also see how we have some of the solutions.
The program has over 3,000 youth leaders in 165 countries with 50 international hubs impacting the oceans. As the COVID-19 crisis gripped the world, SOA hosted its first virtual summit with 594 participants in 73 countries. They all gathered to reinforce their commitment to our ocean despite the global situation. SOA's goal is to accelerate 100 ocean solutions by 2021. With your support, we can mobilize millions of young people worldwide, develop innovative solutions, and secure the fate of our oceans, one heroic effort at a time.
Thanks, Sophia. I feel like I get the warm fuzzies every time I watch that video.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so that's about us at a very high level. I wanted to kind of dive a bit more into the Accelerator program. I think since many of you are kind of innovators and have gone through the One Race for Oceans potentially, or interested in some way in entrepreneurship, we thought maybe we could just share a bit more about some of the Accelerator companies that have gone through our program. So the first one here, and I'm not seeing this slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so the first one that we wanted to share about here is a company called Coral Vida. They're a company based in the Bahamas that's working on farming climate change resistant corals rapidly using a microfragmenting techniques. As you see in the photo, which I'm not seeing again, I don't know if it's just me. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so as you see in the photo, it's a land-based method for growing corals. And they've also begun drafting kind of tailored reef restoration plans for governments, hospitality companies and communities. And I think as climate change is accelerating, this kind of solution is more and more important. So yeah, I'd actually encourage you also, if you have the chance, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, you can also just visit our Accelerator page on our website and check out all of the companies in more detail. So maybe we can put that link in the chat as well.
Yeah, I put
Okay.
the links in the chat.
Perfect, thanks. And the next slide. Okay, yeah, and so the next company I wanted to just talk about briefly is Lolliware. So this is actually one of the first companies that's gone through our Ocean Accelerator program. They were part of the first cohort. And I think actually Daniela learned about them because she saw them on this TV show called Shark Tank before she started SOA. And she really loved what they did and they applied for our first cohort. So they make seaweed-based straws. That was their kind of initial thing. And now they're working on seaweed-based replacements for other types of single-use plastic. It seems their website's under construction, but you can, we'll put a link for their Instagram. And next slide. So last company I'll just briefly mention is called Kuleana. I wanted to talk about them because they're actually one of the companies in our network that I've had the opportunity to kind of meet in person and actually try their product. So they are working on contributing to reducing overfishing by making plant-based seafood. Their main product right now is like a raw tuna. And I've gotten to try it in a poke bowl here in Barcelona, and it was actually really great. So they're one of several companies that have gone through the Accelerator program that is focused on solutions to overfishing, plant-based alternatives to fish products. And yeah, you can find the rest on our website. So again, I encourage you to browse the website and see if there's any companies in particular that are of interest to you. We'll end up sending you or giving you our email addresses at the end. So we could potentially put you in touch with our Accelerator team if you're interested in learning more or meeting any of the companies that have gone through the program. Yeah, so now I'll pass it to Sophia so she can give you an introduction to our Ocean Leadership Program.
Great, thanks, Emily. So as Emily mentioned, there's kind of these two sides of SOA, the Accelerator and the Ocean Leadership Program, which is where she and I work. So this area is, perhaps for people who aren't ready to start or found their own company and aren't advanced entrepreneurs yet, but it's a community for you to advance your projects, build your network, find mentors, and start building a career in ocean conservation and sustainability. So it's an area where you can springboard your own personal and professional growth. And we offer opportunities such as workshops. We recently had the Ocean Leadership Deep Dive, which was a 6-week intensive program on conscious leadership and on public speaking and ocean literacy. And you also have the opportunity to connect with our over 200 SOA mentors, whether again, you want to focus more specifically on an ocean project or get more mentorship regarding pitching your story, etc. So the Ocean Leadership Program supports a global movement of leaders now in over 165 countries. And our young ocean leaders are ages 18 to 35. And we'll talk a little bit more about how they're based in hubs all around the world, but we offer different programming, such as our in-person events, which you saw in the brief video we shared, and now increasingly more through webinars as well, and through our microgrant program that we'll share a bit more about, and mentorship. Perfect. So who are our young ocean leaders? They are those that have demonstrated commitment to UN SDG 14, life below water, by raising awareness in their respective areas regarding ocean challenges, or actually creating solutions or influencing others to take action. And we even have, some hubs that aren't necessarily in coastal cities, but they're still doing work regarding ocean literacy with, different ages in their communities, or, taking political action as well. And so in order to become a certified young ocean leader through SOA, you must complete and be approved through our onboarding course that we have that's available right now in 5 different languages. And we'll share the link with you at the end if you're interested in joining our community. So kind of from there, I'll explain a little bit about our network structure. So we have SOA Global, which is where Emily and I work, and where Daniela is. So this is kind of our headquarters, which are technically in San Francisco, but as we become remote, many of us are elsewhere, including Emily and myself. So this is really where we have the central SOA staff coordinating all our resources for our global community and managing, for example, our microgrants and sending our funding, and gathering our mentors and matching mentors with young ocean leaders, and developing our programming that we offer. And then we have our regional communities and regional representatives, which I'll share a little bit more about. But these are young ocean leaders themselves that work closely with SOA staff and are based in their respective regions, and they help us, strategically build out our hubs and our communities in those areas. And then we have our different kinds of hubs. So some hubs are national and focus on countrywide action. For example, we have SOA Peru, we have SOA Mozambique, and then we have some hubs that are subnational. So these might be focused on a city. For example, we have SOA New York City, or some that are focused on built out of a university. For example, we have SOA Charleston, SOA University of Mississippi, and these organize events in their universities or in their cities. So we kind of have different tiers, different levels of hubs that can be formed. So who are our regional reps? Here you can see some very nice pictures of them. So they're kind of like the face and hands of the regional communities, a bit more on the ground. And they help us by onboarding new members that have gone through the Young Ocean Leadership onboarding course, helping develop hubs. So, working closely with Emily and myself and others, giving strategic advice and counsel for the new hubs, as well as helping them form new partnerships, whether that's with other youth groups in the area or other ocean related or climate related NGOs, et cetera. They also, provide translations and are able to provide support in the language needed, such as, Spanish or Portuguese or French. And they help us support hubs in that way. So here are some of our SOA regional representatives. We have Daniel, who's our regional representative for Hispanoamerica, so all Spanish speaking in Latin America, and he has really helped us grow our network there. We have now 21 hubs in Latin America, including a hub for each province of Peru, which is really great. We have Eugenia, who's our regional rep for Portuguese speaking countries, as well as Europe. So that, includes Europe and Portugal and Brazil and Mozambique and Africa. And then we have Forby, who's our regional rep for Africa, non-Portuguese speaking, and we are growing there as well. We have a regional rep for Southeast Asia. Rafid is actually, has wrapped up with us, but we're bringing on a new rep there. And we have Kamal for Fiji and the Pacific Islands. And we actually are very excited that we just brought on a regional rep for the Caribbean as well. So we are in the coming year looking to grow our presence in the Caribbean, especially with how many small island developing states we have there. So really excited about that. And this team really helps us grow our presence on the ground. So to give you a bit of a snapshot of our global community. So we now have close to 6,000 members in a platform that we utilize called Mobilize. So once you become a young ocean leader, you have access to this platform where we share resources and events and updates. And within that, you can join your specific regional community. So as you can see, our Latin America, Hispanoamerica community is the largest as of now. And then we have presence in these other regions and just continue to grow. I think even this might need a little bit of updating. And we are active in 165 countries. So I will hand it back to Emily to explain a little bit more about how the hubs fit in.
Yeah, thanks, Sophia. Yes, I think Sophia did a great job of explaining a bit about the hubs, but basically the hubs are, I think, one of the most important parts of SOA because we see them as kind of at the heart of achieving SOA's vision. They are the ones that are actually working on the ground on projects in their communities around the world. They work on a variety of projects, from running educational and ocean literacy programs to working on upcycling and plastic reduction projects. Even some people are working on like sustainable fisheries policy. They're organized in groups by region, as Sophia mentioned, and they meet regularly with other hub leaders and members in their regions. Some of them are kind of nationally led, some of them are locally led, and some of them are just university affiliated. We also have a few hubs in our network that are existing NGOs that are just co-branded as SOA hubs, but that have very similar missions to SOA and already have broad networks in their regions. So yeah, we have a number of hubs also based at universities in the US that have done projects such as getting single-use plastics banned on their campuses, doing movie screenings, beach cleanups. And kind of some of the benefits of starting a hub with SOA is that you would gain access to funding through our microgrants program, as well as access to our global community and mentorship through our like one-to-one mentorship through our mentor community, which is growing quite rapidly. So next slide. Yeah, so some examples of hubs. I think Sophia already mentioned a few. I mentioned SOA because I think this is one of my, SOA Japan, because it's one of my favorite hubs. I'm a little bit biased. I've been working with them since they started in late 2019, and they have had so much progress since then. Their goal is to create the largest network of activists and ocean leaders in Japan, and accelerate Japan's transition to becoming a more ocean conscious society. And I think it's interesting because youth movements are not very active in Japan. Culturally, it's a bit hard to get people involved given crazy work hours or cultural attitudes around disruptive activism. But this group has really done a good job of building a national ocean community in a very short time and bringing together both ocean experts and people that are just new to ocean science or involved in other areas of society. And so I've been really proud to see them grow in the past couple of years. I think Sophia dropped a link to their website in the chat if you want to check out more about them. Next slide. The next, hub that I'll mention, this is like a more regional scale hub. It's for all of the Pacific Islands. It encompasses, I think, about 13 islands, and the leaders are based in Fiji. And in the past 2 years, they've started an annual Pacific Youth Leadership Summit, which brings together hundreds of youth from around the Pacific Islands, where they've done kind of design thinking workshops and come up with ideas on how to solve regional problems facing their oceans. They've also been super active in helping me and helping the whole SOA team on the deep seabed mining campaign, which is a really big issue in the region. Next slide. Yeah, so the video that you saw was outdated. I think it said 50 hubs, and in the past year, it's actually grown to 70 hubs in 44 countries. And yeah, as Sophia pointed out, the hubs are working directly with their respective regional representatives and getting involved in regional networks and events as well. And you can explore all of these hubs that we have on our website in a bit more detail. I think it has at least links to their contact information. We're currently working on updating the website so that you can read a bit more about each of the hubs. But yeah, I encourage checking that out if you get the chance. Thanks. Okay, yeah, so moving on to the Ocean Leadership Microgrants Program. This is still a pretty new program. We just started it last year, and it's a way to kind of finally provide funding to our community. We support projects on the individual level and for our hubs. And many of the projects that we support, are from our hubs. Last year, we supported about 30% of the projects that we supported out of 90 were from hubs. And this year it's closer to 40%. But we also support many individual projects or projects from other organizations or community groups. And some of these groups have eventually actually turned into hubs. In 2020, we supported a total of 90 projects with $155,000 of funding. As well as given the mentorship and curated curriculums. So that was in 2020, and I'll talk about 2021 in a couple of slides, but this is just a bit of our impact from 2020. So just in our first year alone of running this program, we supported 256 events with over 22,000 participants. Removed over 64,000 kilograms of waste, planted almost 8,000 corals and 19,000 mangroves, as well as created 47 jobs. So I think it was a pretty successful first year. We haven't collected the impact yet from 2021, but we're slowly starting to get there. So next slide. Thanks. Yeah, so this year we actually received over 500 applications, which is a 178% increase from 2020, which is amazing, from 96 countries. And we ended up funding about 100 grants, and each of them is between $1,000 and $4,000 per grant. And yeah, we're supporting grants in 50 countries, and they are across key impact areas, like all of our key impact areas, which are blue carbon, sustainable fisheries, pollution reduction, and ecosystem preservation. We've also been providing mentorship for these grantees, as well as this year we kind of piloted our first ever program, this is Ocean Leadership Deep Dive. Sophia was really integrally involved in developing that program, and it's a cohort-based learning and capacity building program. Next slide. Here we wanted to just share, I guess, kind of one project for each of Enactus's main impact areas. So the first I have here is for sustainable aquaculture. So this is a project that I'm working with this year called Ocean Purpose Project. They are based in Singapore, and they're working to reduce the impact of algal blooms and resulting fish kills in ocean-based aquaculture facilities by using seaweed and mussel aquaculture inside fish aquaculture facilities. They're also harvesting seaweed for kind of creating plastic alternatives. Next slide. Yeah, so the next one is for sustainable ocean fisheries. This is a group called Tingadat that's piloting a new project called Sea Crate, which is a really cool idea. The idea is basically to encourage sustainable fish consumption in the country. So fish is actually, it is a primary food source for a lot of people in the Philippines. And much of what's found in the market, I think, is actually caught through unsustainable industrial fishing. So this project is working with small-scale artisanal fishers in communities around the Philippines, and it connects them directly with buyers in Manila for like a subscription basis, on a subscription basis. So twice a month, basically, they receive a box of seasonal and sustainably caught fish. It's also helping to provide a livelihood for traditional fishers there. So pretty cool project. And then the last example I wanted to share is focused on coastal and marine habitats. So this is a group that we've been supporting both in 2020 and 2021. They're called Mikoko Pamoja. They're based in Kenya, And they were actually one of the first blue carbon credit programs in the world. Last year, through our grant funding, they planted over 4,000 mangroves. And their goal is to plant 2,000 in 2022, as well as continue to provide carbon offsets of about 2,000 tons of CO2 per year. They're also working with local Kenyan women this year in molding thousands of clay pots for their mangrove nursery. So they're actually one of 12 blue carbon projects that we funded in 2021. We also funded maybe 6 additional blue carbon projects last year. And through this microgrants program and with the programming that we've provided on top of the funding, they've actually been able to build some new partnerships with some of the other blue carbon crediting projects that are in our network, which has been really exciting to see. Yeah, it's just kind of the power of the network and bringing people in that are like-minded, and it's been really cool to work with them. So now I'm going to pass it to Sophia to share about the other 3 focus areas and a bit about our Youth Policy Advisory Council.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, and I just want to mention that the project leader from Makoko Pomoja was also one of our participants in the Ocean Leadership Deep Dive. So he was able to connect with, other grantees around the world through that program as well, which we just wrapped last week. So our next case study for the ocean and climate resiliency portion is Ocean Rescue Alliance, which is based in Florida in the US. So they are also a 2-time recipient of the SOA microgrants. This is their 2nd year receiving funding from us. Last year, they focused on the coral lock project, which you can see in this picture with kind of the orange coral lock. So this is a coral restoration technology, which provides an artificial stabilizer for putting in coral fragments. So the organization as a whole focuses on reef conservation through restoration, research, ecotourism, and education. And the coral lock is an innovative device that increases coral outplanting efficiency. So it enables the coral to be placed easier, faster, and safer. So these plugs with a threaded base twist into the receivers, creating a secure connection to the habitat modules. And each module can outplant 10 to 20 corals at a time. And another pro is that they're made from inert materials. So they're composed of calcium carbonate, silica, and limestone. So the coral locks don't erode or break down in the marine environment, and they do not harm the corals or the reef. So that's what they focused on with their grant last year. And this year they are working on artificial breakwater and coral restoration modules, which you can see in the other picture below. So essentially it's a wave reduction module to try to kind of slow the wave energy, and in that way protect coastlines through reducing the wave energy while also creating a biologically important habitat. So it kind of incorporates their work from last year. So creating a habitat for these corals and for outplanting, while also protecting coastlines through reducing wave energy. So their goal is to pilot in the ocean at a large scale, in addition to outplanting 5,000 corals on these structures. And they have been testing their 3 different modules in the sustained wave tank at the University of Miami, and so far have found that the tetrahedron design was the most effective with the staghorn coral. So that's what they're working on, and eventually we'll be outplanting in the Miami-Dade area. Our other case study for direct ocean pollution is a project called Marulio, which means the noise of the sea. It's kind of a play on words. And so what they focus on is reusing fishing nets on a small island in Brazil, in Angra dos Reis, Brazil. And it's a for-profit social enterprise organization that was founded by SOA Ocean Leader Beatriz Matiutsu, and she's also a member of our SOA Brazil hub. So what they do is they recover abandoned fishing nets in the area, and they repurpose them into goods for sale, which you can see in the picture here. So they make little like backpacks or hammocks or like a little carrying bag for groceries. And what they do is they also employ the fishermen, and that are the ones that are, know how to repair these nets. So at the same time, they're, providing livelihoods or additional income for families in the area. Since they've begun, they've collected 231 kilograms of ghost nets, have generated income for local families. We're still receiving their impact from this year, but so far, just in August, they generated over $1,000 in income, which is more than 6,000 Brazilian reais. And in August alone, they've sold 661 products. So here's their Instagram handle if you're interested. I think Emily might drop their website link as well. And I want to show you a brief video of their work.
Você sabe o que acontece com uma rede de pesca descartada? Muitas vezes elas vão parar no mar. Isso é super perigoso. Além de mais lixo no nosso oceano, causam a chamada pesca fantasma e matam milhões de animais marinhos. Mas o que fazer com essa situação? Deixa eu te contar a nossa ideia. Eu sou a Bia e junto com o Lucas nós somos 2 oceanógrafos e moramos em Ilha Grande, onde a gente tenta resolver o problema da pesca fantasma. Só que isso só faz sentido quando junto com a comunidade e com os pescadores locais, para respeitar e valorizar o jeito de ser e fazer dessas populações tradicionais. Então nós pegamos as redes que seriam descartadas para, junto com a galera daqui, transformar em outros produtos, como sacolas e bolsas, tudo a partir do conhecimento dos pescadores, buscando aproximar pessoas e oceano e oferecer essa solução para mais gente, não só aqui em Ilha Grande, mas em todo o Brasil, a partir da nossa lojinha online. E aí, bora fazer Marulio? Você sabe o que acontece com uma rede de pesca descartada?
Yeah, I love that project. I think it's really exciting. So now I'd like to share a bit with you about our Youth Policy Advisory Council. And one of the main campaigns they've been working on is the Global Blue New Deal. So, perhaps many of you have heard of the Green New Deal, but the Green New Deal only mentions the ocean one time. So our Youth Policy Advisory Council, or YPAC, as we call it with the acronym, pulled together from our community to create a global Blue New Deal. So this began in 2019 when they surveyed over 100 youth in our entire global community to understand what their ocean demands and priorities were respectively in their regions. And from that created an ocean policy framework that integrates these crowdsourced youth priorities. And the goal is to propose it to governments on international, national, and local scales for implementation. So it's really a policy framework that integrates, not just climate and ocean action, but intergenerational climate justice, brings in the idea of recovering from the pandemic as an opportunity to redefine humanity's relationship with nature, taking action, of course, on SDG 14, but other SDGs such as SDG 13 on climate action, and many others that have to do, with hunger and food security and poverty, and showing how really, taking ocean action is central to all of them, as well as connecting with the UN Ocean Decade, which launched this year and goes until 2030, the end of the decade, and highlighting the importance of a sustainable blue economy as well. So it's centered around 4 basic pillars. So our first pillar is a low carbon future that addresses the climate emergency. You can see our sub-pillars within pillar 1 on the right side. So that includes ending offshore drilling, divesting from fossil fuels, investing in renewable ocean energy, decarbonizing the shipping and fishing industries, eliminating single-use plastics, which also connects back to divesting from fossil fuels, limiting agricultural, industrial, and chemical ocean pollution, and transitioning to a circular economy. And I think Emily dropped the link in the chat, so you can go to our SOA Global Blue New Deal page and check it out. We have the full document in English, as well as all our other languages that we work with our regional reps with. Our second pillar is on preserving biodiversity. So really pushing for applying nature-based solutions in order to promote healthy ecosystems and climate resilience. So with that, achieving 30 by 30, which is protection of 30% of the ocean by 2030, enforcing against non-compliance and biodiversity conservation efforts, establishing a global deep seabed mining moratorium, which is a separate campaign actually at SOA, but of course we included it in our Global New Deal, and Emily will share a bit more about that. And restoring marine ecosystems. So kind of going back to blue carbon, like restoring these ecosystems that not only provide protection against, storm surge and increase coastal resilience, but also sequester carbon naturally. Oops. Our third pillar is for sustainable seafood. So we want to increasingly meet global demand, but in a way that is sustainable and that doesn't contribute to overfishing. So you can see our sub pillars on the right-hand side as well. And I encourage you to check it out in our document. And our fourth pillar is on stakeholder engagement. So making sure to include local communities in natural ocean resource management and what that means, including ensuring that coastal ecotourism is sustainable, promoting more ocean research and innovation, improving ocean literacy and capacity building for ocean governance, and building stakeholder participation in ocean governance and decision-making. So yeah, with that, I will hand it to Emily to talk about our other campaign. And I do encourage you to read our Global Blue New Deal.
Thanks, Sophia. So the second campaign that YPAC is working on with SOA is our campaign against deep sea bed mining, as Sophia mentioned. I think awareness on this topic is still pretty low, but we're actually at a point where the world is actually getting dangerously close to opening up the deep seabed to commercial mining in international waters. There's a small UN body called the ISA, the International Seabed Authority, which is currently drafting regulations. And if they're adopted, then it'll open up the international seabed to mining at a commercial scale for cobalt, lithium, and other metals used in batteries. At SOA, and I think within our youth network, we see this as kind of a very dangerous, because the deep ocean is still very poorly understood. And we know that at least in human timescales, the recovery for areas that have been exploited is basically forever. So yeah, we see also that the deep seabed plays an essential role in carbon sequestration. And I don't think for the sake of time, I should get too deep into it because it's a lot, but I'm happy to discuss more on the topic if anybody's particularly interested. Again, we'll drop our emails at the end. But with this campaign, we do have a virtual day of action that's coming up tomorrow. So if you are active on social media, please keep an eye on our social channels. Our handle is @SoAlliance. And if you're interested in sharing the campaign, I'd also encourage you to go in on our website or our partner's website. We partner with a group called the Oxygen Project that has the same position as us on this topic, which is for a moratorium on deep seabed mining for at least 10 years in alignment with the UN Decade of Ocean Science. So yeah, I encourage that. And I have a short video next, which is basically for our YPAC. It's a recruitment video. So we're currently recruiting for new members to our Youth Policy Advisory Council. The deadline to apply is December 31st. And we're working on recruiting a total of 20 members from, we're seeking people from specific countries, 10 specific countries, which is Australia, Canada, Chile, Fiji, Ghana, Indonesia, Jamaica, Japan, Mexico, Namibia, Norway, Palau, Portugal, and the US, as well as people from 5 other countries. So if anybody here is interested in applying, we welcome you to do that. And yeah, with that, you want to share the video, Sophia?
most important thing that we extract from the ocean is our existence.
The greatest challenge, environmental challenge of the 21st century is protecting the oceans, because that's how you protect the Earth, and the Earth protects us.
We must all do everything we can and fast to protect the ocean's biodiversity.
They have the army to back them up to make their decisions.
Thanks. All right, so to wrap up, I guess, these are some next actions that you can take if you're interested in getting involved with SOA. So I think the first step would be to become a Young Ocean leader. So we have an onboarding course for that. You could also consider starting a hub, but that's kind of a next step beyond becoming a Young Ocean leader. You could also consider, signing our Blue New Deal, as you just saw, and our deep seabed mining campaign, Open Letters. And I think these QR codes on the side are actually to scan to take you to the link to sign those. So if you want to get out your phones, you can scan that. It's a quick, easy way. We'll also drop the links in the chat. Yeah, and then you can also sign up for our SOA newsletter. We have a monthly newsletter that shares a bit about what's going on at SOA, as well as how you can get involved, what upcoming events there are to look out for. And you can also join our future community calls, as well as potentially get in touch with our Accelerator team. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I know some of you are interested in entrepreneurship. So we're happy to put you in touch with the Accelerator team if you see any Accelerator companies that you find particularly interesting, or even any of our microgrants that you find really interesting and just want to get in touch. We're happy to chat with you more about SOA, as well as put you in touch with our Accelerator team or anybody else in our network that you want to talk to. So yeah, just thank you so much for having us again, Emily, and we're happy to take any questions. And Sophia, do you have any kind of closing remarks?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I guess one thing I can note as well is that our next round of microgrants will be opening in April, we expect, of next year. So, if you're interested in applying for funding, we do encourage you to keep an eye out for that and, join our community through becoming a Young Ocean leader. And yeah, if you want to scan the QR codes, the top one is for the Global Blue New Deal and the bottom one is for deep sea mining. So we would greatly appreciate your support. And just another plug too, to help us tomorrow by reposting our campaign on deep sea mining ahead of the December International Seabed Authority meeting. So if you want to help us by sharing on your stories on Instagram, that would be great. And I think that's all. We can take some questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily and Sophia, for presenting today. I know I certainly learned a lot, and I think one of the coolest things is just introducing SOA to our Enactus students and sharing all of the amazing resources that you have available, from the events to the opportunity to connect with people who are really experts in oceans is a really great resource. So I definitely, to the Enactus students out there, don't hesitate to get involved with SOA. I think that they can support your Enactus projects in an amazing way. So just thank you guys so very much. And we do have some time for questions. If anyone has any questions about the presentation you saw, about One Race for Oceans in general, feel free to drop those in the chat box or raise your hand. We'd be more than happy to stay on the line for another few minutes and answer some questions. And as people are thinking about their questions, I can just go ahead and let you all know that the deadline to enter One Race for Oceans is coming up on December 7th. So make sure if you're interested in entering the race, you start looking at the Enactus Plus page. Under the opportunities section, you'll see the Race for Oceans. All of the race requirements are there. You can also reach out to us via email at races@enactus.org if you have any questions. And we can't wait to see you participate this year. This is our 3rd year of One Race for Oceans, so excited to just further grow our impact and be working with amazing partners like Sustainable Ocean Alliance. So looks like we have a bit of a quiet group. If nobody has any questions to share today, we can go ahead and wrap things up. But like I said, thank you so much for coming. We look forward to seeing you participate in the race. Once again, thank you to Emily and Sophia and the SOA team. We really appreciate it. So we will go ahead and end for today, but thank you all for your time.
I see one question here actually.
Yes.
Saying we're completely landlocked. What advice can you offer us to make a difference? Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, I mean, I'm from Missouri. I'm from Kansas City, so I was also completely landlocked when I was a student. So wanted to share that. There's always ways to get involved. For me, I think it's important to remember that everybody's interconnected, everything's interconnected. You know, the oxygen we breathe, the weather patterns we experience, they all come from the sea. So yeah, I think also that, you know, climate change is most dramatic. It's most dramatically and first hitting the oceans. So we need kind of everybody involved in this movement and in the climate movement. I think that the climate movement has done a really good job of saying we need, you know, intergenerational and intersectional, an intersectional movement that you know, incorporates everybody from kind of all walks of life. And I think we need the same, you know, for the ocean, or, you know, the climate movement affects the ocean. So yeah, your vote, basically everything that you do in terms of making sure that you're being sustainable in your choices and things like that, that's all helpful. When I was a student at the University of Missouri, you know, I joined all the environmental clubs that I could find, basically, and joined the Missouri Stream team, as well as helped organize, stream cleanups, river cleanups in the Missouri River, and Missouri River leads to the ocean. So basically everything that we do, no matter where we are, affects the ocean in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. Yeah, do you have any other additional comments on that, Sophia?
Yeah, just to follow up on what you said, you know, we have some hubs that are also landlocked and do river cleanups. I think actually in Missouri, or maybe Mississippi. So
we used to have, we have one in Mississippi that does river cleanups. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. So like Emily said, you know, all rivers eventually lead to the sea. And actually, I believe, you know, the majority of plastic pollution in the ocean comes from rivers. So that's, you know, one way to very much get involved. And like Emily was saying, like the interconnectedness of all our waterways with the ocean. And then another thing I would say is just ocean literacy, you know, letting people know, like, even if you feel, you know, you're inland and you're far from the ocean, raising awareness and bringing education about why the ocean is still so important. Our planet is 71% ocean. So really how raising awareness and teaching others about the importance of the ocean, even if you maybe have never even seen the ocean or feel like you're so far removed, it's still impacting regional weather and global climate patterns on a daily basis. So I think if, you know, you're interested in getting involved in that, we do have some hubs as well that, like, you know, create curriculum around this for different ages of students. And I think a few of them are also not near the sea and maybe can't take their students to the ocean, but are still teaching about the importance of it. So I'd say, yeah, if you can take action near waterways, even if it's not the ocean in your region, get engaged in ocean literacy, and you can help with policy movements as well. Like you can help with our campaigns. I'm actually in Western Pennsylvania right now. I'm also nowhere near the ocean. So there's ways to be involved and help push forward the movements, even if you're not by the ocean.
Yeah, and even if you're involved in any kind of climate movement, that's also something that's really affecting the ocean right now, probably the primary thing it's affecting the ocean right now. So yeah, tons of ways to get involved, and yeah, join SOA. You'll find lots of ways to get involved with us. So yeah, and then again, I just wanted to say again, like if you have any additional questions that you haven't shared here, you want to follow up with us, please feel free to send us an email at any time, and we're happy to talk. Rudy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I actually wanted to add something on the on the bit you were talking about, since we are landlocked and how can we help. I just wanted to say that my project, we are not directly cleaning the ocean or working on it, but we're trying to limit the waste that eventually ends up in ocean. So that's what we can do. Even being away from the ocean, with the things we know will eventually end up in the ocean and pollute it, you can just minimize its wastage or stop it there and then on the land and work on it. So
yeah, absolutely, that's great.
That's so cool that you're doing that. And where are you based, Rudy? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, I'm from India, Enactus, from one of the College of Delhi universities.
That's so cool.
I think we have another question in the chat. What does the process of starting a new hub at a university entail? I go to UTRGV, located in South Texas, and my university has a campus about 45 minutes away from the Gulf of Mexico.
Nice. Yeah, so the first thing that you can do if you're interested in starting a hub is that we have, well, first, I think that's first and foremost is to take the Ocean Leader onboarding course. And then once you've completed that, you can learn a bit more about SOA and kind of next steps. And then the next step after that is to apply to start an Ocean Solutions Hub. So we do have an application form. I can put it in the chat if I can find it very quickly here. And then it'll be a couple of kind of follow-up conversations with us and our team after we review your application. And then we'll tell you a bit about more about what the requirements are, and basically it's pretty easy. You just have to do 1 to 2 projects per year, and we can even help develop those projects. You develop a strategic plan for your group, and we kind of just walk you down the path. So that's how to get started.
Yeah, and I just dropped the link again for the Young Ocean Leader course, which would be your first step into becoming an SOA community member.
Yeah, and just so you get a sense, I'll also just drop this link for the Starting an Ocean Solutions Hub as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much. I think those are all really great resources. Well, we are at time today, so we are going to go ahead and wrap up. Once again, thank you everyone for attending. Emily and Sophia, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing your projects come in for One Race for Oceans. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Enactus at races@enactus.org, or if you'd like to get in touch with Sustainable Ocean Alliance, feel free to use their email addresses or the links that they've provided today. So we will be sharing a recording of this presentation, so keep an eye on your email when that is up and ready to view, and don't hesitate to share that with your team members if anyone wasn't able to join us today. So thank you all so very much. We look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.